Hello everyone, it's Jin'taan here, and welcome to my series of CSM interviews. By the time you listen to this, all of the interviews will have been conducted, as I wanted to make sure that all the questions were asked of all the participants before the questions were made public. Hopefully this will serve to make sure that the interview platform is a relatively balanced one, as no candidate has been able to sit down and really research and prepare an answer in advance. Everything that the people answer here is going to be off the cuff. In order to give a bit of background as to who I am and what relation I have with the CSM, I've served on the previous 3 terms and am not planning to run for CSM 14. However, I wanted to lend my expertise, at least to some degree, to the election process, and I thought that the best way to do this was to highlight some specific candidates who I thought were interesting and had captured some level of public support. Anyway, with all that said, let's swiftly switch focus over to the subject of our interview. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you've decided to run for the CSM?
Well, I am Manic Velocity. I have spent the last 3 years or so streaming Eve, kind of, I guess, building a kind of variety show based around Eve on Twitch and YouTube. Um, and I've been co-hosting Eve TV broadcasts at Eve Vegas and FanFest since 2016. Um, Gave a presentation at Eve Vegas 2016 on integrating into the Eve community, and that's really the gist of it as far as out of game activity goes. But I mean, in game, I'm really just kind of a line member. In fact, I'm flying solo right now. Previously, I was with Origin and Black Legion, but I left when they moved to Fraternity.
So one of the first sessions that the CSM will typically have at a summit is a meeting with the upper leadership of EVE Online's development team. Typically during this meeting, the CSM has tried to present a list of 3 to 4 points to CCP in order to try and focus CCP's attention on specific areas that the CSM as a whole agree needs work on. What is a point that you would push for to be on that list during your first summit if you were elected?
Um, I would have to say definitely the user interface. I mean, I'll be honest. As if we're going to talk about game balance, that's really not my area, especially at higher levels like capitals and things like that. But I know a sticking point with a lot of people, new and old, continues to be the user interface and the user experience of Eve. And I know that's something that TCP regularly attempts to iterate on, but they never seem to get it quite right. So that would be a major one for me.
Can you point to any particular areas of the UI that you feel need work right now?
Sure. The new map is one that I know is a sticking point for me, and it's a sticking point for a lot of people, as well as the skill queue interface. There was actually a thread on Twitter. Lulu Lunette posed the question that was like, I think it was what was once in Eve that is now gone that you miss. And I posted an old screenshot of the old skill queue interface, how it was much more vertical and side by side, and that it got a good response from Tweet Fleet as something that a lot of people miss. And just, I mean, generally the responsiveness of the UI I feel has gone down over the years in terms of like clicking on an icon in the Neocom, and it usually takes maybe a second or two, or maybe even longer to open the window that you click. So things like the market, I know, takes a while to load. Industry, the character sheet definitely takes a while to load. Um, so it. I know it doesn't sound like much, a second or two to wait for a window to open up, but over time that definitely adds up in a place in a sorry, it adds up over time in a play session that could be 3-4 hours long.
During CSM 12, I was asked to suggest 3 areas of the game that I felt CCP would gain a lot from working on. If you had to do the same thing, what 3 areas of the game would you suggest?
So One of the reasons that I'm running for CSM is that I feel that CCP's communication with the community has kind of deteriorated over the last maybe 2 years. Um, so I know this is a little bit unconventional, I think, for a CSM candidate to talk about this kind of stuff. Um, Whereas most CSM candidates, I think, are really concerned about game balance and game mechanics. I think the approach that I'm taking is one from more of a marketing standpoint. So the communication with the community, obviously, CCP's community team has been diminished since the end of 2017 when the layoffs to the community team came, and I think that basically the quality and the output, the amount of communication, um, has dropped noticeably over the years, and I'd like to see a return to a time when um, a lot of the development team were much more engaged with players on Reddit and Twitter.
Do you think that you could narrow down this point at all and really specify what you want CCP to do better at?
I would guess I'd just have to say engaging more with the community and improving the
Via,
quality of that engagement.
on what platforms do you think CCP is falling behind on interacting with the community?
Definitely on social media channels. I know a lot of people don't like the forums, so obviously Reddit and Twitter are huge, and I know CCP has been branching out into Instagram a lot more over the last year or so. Um, but yeah, gathering feedback on new features and new ideas, just talking to players where really most of them I feel are active, and that would probably be Reddit and Twitter. I don't know about Facebook, but I'm sure there's a sizable Eve portion of the Eve community that uses Facebook.
Okay, so that's your first one. What's the other two? What's your second one? Or
Uh,
would you spread that out into like three different points just to make it super clear?
yeah, I mean that's really what I'm campaigning for. Like I said, the user interface of the game overall, if we're going to talk about in-game stuff, would be another bullet point. As for a third, I there's nothing that immediately comes to mind.
Okay.
These are just the two that you know I notice personally that I've had a problem with over the years. Not that I've had a problem, but I've been noticing a deterioration in the quality of these two things, and I would like to work with CCP in a bit more of an official capacity in attempting to change those.
So an important part of being a member of the CSM is being able to explain gameplay patterns or uses of mechanics that feel broken to CCP in order to show why that they're not something you feel is healthy for the game. Can you describe something that you have experience with that you perceive to be broken, or at the very least overpowered, and explain why it is in your view?
Going back to the user interface, the new map I feel is pretty much useless. And talking to other people about this, I know anybody who needs any kind of uh, spatial information about where they are and the surrounding area, they go to Dotlan. They go to these out of game tools to get the information that they need. The fact that it's not a well, I guess it is available in the game, but it's not presented in an efficient way. Um, and a lot of people just default to using the old map because it displays this information um, just in a much better way than the new map does. Um, and the again the skill queue, the current layout of I think the layout of the character sheet overall could use some real work, but the skill queue in particular, this thing that everybody interacts with, like it's unavoidable, but it's in its current state, it's made in, I mean, it's not completely unusable, but it's definitely form over function. um, there's a lot more work that needs to be done to organize your skill queue now than in previous iterations.
So the CSM has to give input on many things, even on things that aren't normally thought of as coming under the CSM's purview, such as UI design. In fact, a meeting with the UI team, Team Psycho Sisters, is a part of most summits. As such, can you describe a part of the UI that you interact with heavily and identify a problem with it when used in the way that you operate it?
So I don't want to keep repeating myself.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry. But I mean that's definitely something I would look forward to. I have experience in user interface and user experience design, so I feel like just and it's hard to explain in this kind of a format, especially with something like user interface. It's very visual, so it'd be best demonstrated in person. But
Well, I mean,
sorry,
there are PCs in Iceland, so you can actually show
I
people
know
things.
I know that. I'm saying for the purposes of this interview, it's hard to explain. um it there's a lot of I don't know.
Well, so say I am a member of CCP. You know, I'm a member of Team Psycho Sisters. You're sitting across the desk from me. We're in the CSM summit. Tell me what's wrong with this specific thing and what you would do to fix it. Just like the elevator pitch. What is the elevator pitch for a fix that you would like to have done?
To put it simply, I shouldn't have to scroll while I'm clicking and dragging to navigate my skill queue or rearrange things, or I shouldn't have to resize two different horizontal windows multiple times to get a clear view of the skills that I can train and the skills that I'm currently training. Um, it, honestly, I think finding a way to bring back the old skill queue UI, I think that alone would make a lot of people really happy, because it was so simple, but it communicated everything you needed to know immediately at a glance.
Now, monetization is often a dirty word within the player base. However, as someone who's running for the CSM, I hope that you understand that it's a necessary part of CCP continuing to exist. With that said, what's a new area of monetization that you would be against, and how would you argue against it?
I think everyone can agree on loot boxes. This is something that I've ranted about a few times on open comms. Um, Loot boxes and general mechanics that could be considered gambling. There's actually this topic is being brought up in the news 2 days. Um, I don't have a problem with CCP finding new ways to monetize the game. I get that that's just the culture of gaming now. That's just the way it is, and that Pandora's box has been opened, and there's no shutting it. What I have a problem with is when um, monetization of a game, or even certain mechanics or features um, get prioritized over making the game fun. Um, and maybe maybe I'm too idealistic. I think a game should be fun first, and then find a way to monetize that fun. Um, and I think where a lot of games are these days is, first they figure out how to bring in the money, and then they build the game around that. And I mean, skins are obviously a big moneymaker for CCP. I think at one point there was even talk of like offering engine trail different colors of engine trails uh, as a something you could buy in the New Eden store. Just a new level of customization for your ship. Um, but I guess as long as I don't have a problem with monetization, as long as it's not predatory, and as long as it doesn't take precedence over making the game fun first and foremost.
Can you go into more detail about how you would try and convince CCP to steer away from gambling in their monetization design?
We're talking about making an argument against. So if let's say
Let's say CCP this is let's say CCP comes into the room with, hey, this is a monetization feature that we would like to put in the game. We would like the CSM's opinion on it.
I guess what I would be concerned about is if any kind of monetization idea affects gameplay, and does it could it could it potentially give an unfair advantage to those who have deeper pockets than other players, the wallet warriors? I mean, that seems like such an easy answer, though. I don't know if you're getting at something
Well,
else.
how does so you talked earlier like your introduction of a monetization feature that you would not like to see in the game was specifically gambling based monetization. Is that what you believe to be a fair summary of your initial point?
Yeah, I mean, there's different. I guess there's different contexts to it, or maybe not context, but different forms of monetization, and gambling is one of.
Alright, Manic, so if you are elected to CSM 14, how would you try and differentiate yourself from the other council members? So, for my final directed question, what other non incumbent candidate would you most like to see elected, either alongside yourself or instead of yourself, should it come to?
Well, Mike Azariah would definitely be my first, just because he's all the work he's done with bringing new players into the game, helping new players with his Magic School Bus program, and he's a super great guy. I've talked to him multiple times at eVegas. Um, so he would definitely be a pick of mine. I feel like I have to give a shout out to Zanuria because he and I have agreed to a bit of cross promotion. But in all honesty, when I remember when Zanuria was running for CSM 11, I believe it was, and a lot of people thought he was kind of a meme candidate. Um, like that maybe the goons threw him into the threw his name into the hat as kind of to illustrate what a joke the CSM was. But honestly, I think Zanuria did a really good job with his run in the CSM, reading over the
That's
minutes from past from past
something that's
stuff.
actually, I actually do have to pop in to give a moment of credit to Zenuria because the pointer thing that was put into the game, one of CCP Karka's little things,
That was one of his ideas,
that
yeah.
was, yeah. And not very many people know that, so I wanted to take a moment to highlight that.
And I believe that's on CC right now. I have to log in and try that. So yeah, Mike Azariah, Zenuria, and oh god, Dunk. I think Dunk Dinkle. He's super knowledgeable about the game and FCing and running a corporation and running an alliance. He's just a great guy overall. So those would definitely be my three: Mike Azariah, Zaneria, and Dunk Dinkle.
Alright, Manic, well, thank you very much for your time and agreeing to come along to this interview. I'd like to give you a few moments here just to have the floor for yourself in order to give a full stop on why you think the listeners should vote for you.
Just to reiterate on what I said before, I understand that I think a lot of people were surprised when they saw that I was running for CSM. This is something that I've been thinking about for about 2 years now, um, and yeah, I make jokes, I make gifs, I make memes and videos, and I wonder if people think I'm shitting on the game or the community, and I'm really not. I poke fun at Eve and the community because I love it. Um, and I wouldn't be doing this shit if I didn't want to see the game live on and succeed in the best way possible. The jokes and stuff are just my interpretation of the zeitgeist of the community. So um look, vote for me if you think I would be good. If you don't think I would be good, don't vote for me. It really is that simple. But for God's sake, get out and vote. Um, I think I was going to tweet this earlier today. There's this vibe that like a lot of Eve community players or Eve players they have this sentiment that the CSM doesn't represent them. Um, but then you tell them to get out and vote for the people that would represent them, and they kind of dig their heels in and just refuse to vote because they think it doesn't matter anyway. So, like, just get out and vote. I don't care who you vote for. I hope you vote for me. I would love to work with CCP in an official capacity and work to positively affect the game. But more than anything, man, just get out and vote, people, please.